Volcanoes of mud endlessly oozing their goo. What a sight to behold. Here are 10 mesmerizing mud volcanoes you have to see. Number 10. Gobustan, Azerbaijan. Mud volcanoes are a strange and unusual feat of nature. In lieu of spewing out lava and ash, mud gushes from these types of volcanoes. In fact, 350 out of the 800 mud volcanoes in the world are located within the Azerbaijani Republic. That's almost half of the mud volcanoes in the world. Mud volcanoes first appeared on Azerbaijan territory around 25 million years ago, and they continue to be active today. Azerbaijan is home to more mud volcanoes than any other country in the world, and the volcano seen here is mesmerizing. Number 9. Chatham Mud Volcano, Trinidad. When the Chatham Mud Volcano first emerged off the southern coast of Trinidad in 1964, people mistook it for a strange island. The island was about 1.5 miles from the shore. Residents of the nearby village of Chatham were confused by this sudden island. But scientists quickly realized that it was, in fact, a mud volcano. The mud volcano had emerged from the Atlantic and formed a mud island. The Chatham Mud Volcano reached a height 6.5 feet above sea level in only 2 days, and it was estimated that the Chatham Mud Volcano was comprised of over 700,000 square feet of rock and mud. Number 8. Moruga Boof, Trinidad. The Moruga Boof mud volcano has been active since August 15, 2007. It started by spitting out methane gas, which is a surefire sign of activity for a mud volcano. Moruga Boof has a high mineral content, but scientists are unsure how this mud volcano formed. But they reasoned that it was likely a result of tectonic movement and accumulated gas pressure. Mud volcanoes like this one actually have some pretty unique benefits. Deposits of gas and oil are often found near mud volcanoes. Mud volcanoes' components can be used as raw materials for the chemical and construction industries, as well as for pharmacology. Number 7. The Devil's Woodyard. Despite its ominous name, the Devil's Woodyard mud volcano is a popular volcano. In fact, the Devil's Woodyard mud volcano is one of the most visited mud volcanoes in Trinidad. The Devil's Woodyard can be found in Hindustan, which is near Princestown. The mud volcano made its first appearance in 1852 via a series of several vents. From there, it erupted. Its eruption startled a nearby village because it erupted with such force that it shook the entire village. It even caused trees to fall over. For this reason, people in the village believed that the devil himself had come up from beneath the earth to roam around in the forest. Thus, the mud volcano was named the Devil's Woodyard. The mud volcano continues to hiss and bubble, which is why it is a popular place to visit today. Number 6. Yellowstone's mud volcanoes. Yellowstone National Park is famous for a lot of things, but mud volcanoes are not one of them. In fact, most people don't even know about Yellowstone's mud volcanoes. This is because the mud volcanoes in Yellowstone Park aren't really true mud volcanoes by definition, but are rather a combination of hot springs, fumaroles, and mud pots. Some scientists have suggested a better name for Yellowstone's mud volcanoes. They have suggested that they be called a hydrothermal mud volcano cluster. Yellowstone Park is known for being an active geothermal area with a significant magma chamber really close to the surface, but it's mostly steam, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide that people see, not mud geysers. Still, there is activity sometimes in Yellowstone's hydrothermal mud volcano cluster. In fact, some of the mud pots act as geysers from time to time, shooting mud up into the air to heights of over 30 feet high. Number 5. The Wandan Mud Volcanoes, Taiwan. Taiwan has 17 active mud volcanoes, but its most famous are the Wandan Mud Volcanoes, which have been erupting on and off for years. The Wandan Mud Volcanoes can be found in the Yanqiao district of Kaohsiung City. The first eruption was in 1720, but the volcano stopped erupting in 1979. From there, it became dormant for 9 years, and experts were unsure as to whether or not the volcanoes would ever erupt again. They did, though, in 1988, and have been erupting about once or twice a year ever since. In fact, just recently, the Wandan Mud Volcanoes caused quite a stir when a massive eruption spewed up mud more than 8 feet high. The spewing mud ran through a nearby cemetery and into a cornfield, but didn't cause any real damage. The Wandon mud volcanoes were once called Boiled Water Mountain because they spewed out yellow water with a red glow. In recent years, however, the volcano hasn't spewed out much water. It's mostly just erupted with thick gray mud. Number 4. Turtle Island Mud Volcano. The only place in the Philippines that has mud volcanoes is on the Turtle Island. There are 3 islands that have mud volcanoes: Lihiman, Great Bakungan, and Boan Islands. But mud volcanoes are plentiful on these islands. In fact, the hills themselves on these 3 islands are mostly made up of mud volcanoes. Lihiman has the most violent mud volcanoes. It's believed that the volatility of the mud volcanoes on Lihiman Island were caused by mild earthquakes. The mud volcanoes there have shot mud so high up into the air that mud has been found in surrounding trees. Mud, mixed with giant pieces of rocks, has created a 66-foot wide crater on the hilly side of the island. Great Bakungan Island also has active mud volcanoes, but the volcanoes on this island flow in a much more subdued manner. The mud that flows from these volcanoes is mesmerizing and is often accompanied by bubbling gas. The mud volcanoes on Boan Island, on the other hand, have been dormant since August 2000. Number 3. El Totumo, Colombia. El Totumo mud volcano is the smallest mud volcano in the country, but El Totumo proves that sometimes good things come in little packages. The mud volcano is one of the most visited mud volcanoes in the world because it is one of the most unique. El Totumo is an active mud volcano, which continues to spew out thick, warm mud. The volcano is found in the municipality of Santa Catalina in northern Colombia. The area is a popular tourist destination, both for the active mud volcano and for the popular mud bath. The crater of the volcano acts as a pool of mud that invites visitors to submerge themselves. The mud bath is rumored to have healing powers, and people flock to the mud volcano to take advantage of the mud bath and to bathe in its warm, dense mud. The mud bath of the El Totumo is a truly one-of-a-kind experience, as people are mesmerized by its inviting mud. The crater can accommodate around 15 people at a time, and after submersing themselves in the mud, visitors also have the option of having a massage from one of the volcano's attendants. There is a nearby lagoon where visitors can rinse themselves off after. The volcano itself is about 49 feet high and can be accessed via a staircase. The volcano is also steeped in rich folklore. Local people believe that the volcano used to spew lava, but that the volcano was transformed into a mud volcano by a local priest. The priest believed that the fiery volcano was the work of the devil, so he extinguished the fire and banished the devil by dousing the volcano in holy water. Number 2. Piparo Mud Volcano, Trinidad. Most mud volcanoes are mesmerizing as they ooze out thick, dense mud that slowly cascades down the side of the volcano. Trinidad is no stranger to mud volcanoes, but more often than not, mud volcanoes are a harmless, albeit fascinating, geological rarity. The Piparo mud volcano, though, is far more destructive than mesmerizing. The Piparo mud volcano is named for its nearby village, Piparo, which is on the southern edge of Trinidad's Central Range. The volcano erupted on February 22, 1997. It is one of the most volatile and destructive mud volcano eruptions in history. Before the eruption, the volcano started rumbling a bit. This rumbling was followed by tiny tremors. Both the rumbling and the tremors acted as a warning of the volcano's soon-to-be eruption, but these warnings happened very shortly before the full-on eruption. The volcano spewed unusual magmatic mud, and villagers had little time to flee their homes. The amount of mud was borderline unbelievable. It's estimated that the mud from the volcano could have filled approximately 500,000 barrels. The hot mud was quick to flow through the village and covered their homes from floor to ceiling. Entire cars and houses were completely buried under the mud. The mud covered an area of a full square mile. Livestock was killed, the power was knocked out, and residents were left stranded as the mud surged over the only roads in and out of the town. And even more devastating, the liquid mud quickly hardened to a clay-like substance. People were left without supplies or water while they waited for rescue. Luckily, the Piparo mud volcano's eruption caused no fatalities, but it did cause significant and unprecedented damage to the village. 31 families were forced from their homes and permanently displaced. The hardened mud claimed several roads, and remnants of the destructive volcano are still visible today. After the eruption, an alternate road was created from Piparo through nearby Guaracara to ensure that, should this ever happen again, people would not be stranded. The Piparo mud volcano has not erupted since, but it remains active and restless. Before we move on to number 1, we have a couple quick honorable mentions that didn't make the list. Honorable mention 1, the Redondo Beach Mud Volcano, California. The Redondo Beach Mud Volcano is about 15 miles from the shoreline of the famous Redondo Beach in California. But unlike most mud volcanoes, this volcano is completely submerged in water. The Redondo Beach Mud Volcano can be found 2,600 feet below the surface. It is a large volcano, measuring in at approximately 100 feet high and 900 feet at the base. The core of the volcano is comprised of shell hash and carbonate clasts. The volcano has been widely studied because of its unique composition. The volcano is very deep in the water, and down that deep, the water pressure is 80 times more than the atmospheric pressure found at sea level. Because the pressure is so high, both the water and the methane gas freeze. When they freeze, it forms something called a methane hydrate ice. This methane hydrate ice incorporated itself into the sediment of the ocean floor that surrounds the volcano. But over time, chunks of this methane ice will separate from the volcano. As such, because it is so deep underwater, the Redondo Beach Mud Volcano does not act like above-ground volcanoes. It is a truly unique and one-of-a-kind underwater mud volcano that is capable of producing methane ice. Honorable mention 2, the Caspian Sea Mud Volcanoes, Iran. In the Gorgan Plain of the southeastern Caspian Basin, there are several mud volcanoes. These volcanoes are the Garanyare, Neftlige, Sofakam, and Inchi mud volcanoes. They are all active and they are all erupting with mud and gas. Mud volcanoes occur in an area characterized by seismic activity. The biggest is the Garanyare mud volcano, which is an active mud volcano whose crater is nearly 1,650 feet in diameter. And the main craters of both the Inchi and the Neftlige mud volcanoes are completely submerged underwater. These unusual volcanoes have equally unusual compositions. They all mainly consist of limestone and glauconite sandstone. Recent research of these volcanoes, though, has pointed out that these volcanoes exist in a tectonically active area. Research has also illuminated the fact that all of these volcanoes came from a deeper part of the Gorgan Plain, but that they have somehow surfaced to a shallower space. They are not currently active. Number 1. Lusi in Indonesia. The Lusi mud volcano in Indonesia is the largest mud volcano in the world. The name Lusi is actually an abbreviation, as it has been called both the Lapindo mud volcano and the Sidoarjo mud volcano. The massive mud volcano has produced a pretty epic mud flow since May 2006. In fact, during its peak, the Lusi was spewing out upwards of 47 million gallons of mud per day. The rate of mud slowed over time, though, and by August, the mud was down to 2 million gallons per day. The flow has been contained by way of levees, since if it were left uncontained, it would decimate nearby roads and villages. Even with the levees, though, there are still mud floods, and these floods are highly disrupted to the surrounding areas. The Lusi is still flowing, and experts have projected that the flow will continue for the next 25 to 30 years. Although some scientists have suggested that the volcano is collapsing under its own weight. Whether or not the mud flow will continue to slow down or increase, or whether or not the volcano will ultimately destroy itself remains to be seen. But currently, it is the largest mud volcano in the world, with the largest mud flow that could cause the largest amount of potential damage, which is why the Lusi mud volcano has earned the top spot on this list of 10 mesmerizing mud volcanoes.